I was born in New York City, and I grew up in Washington Heights till I was 6 years old. And Washington Heights is a really interesting place because it was a totally Jewish neighborhood, and there were a lot of German-speaking people and things like that. And I remember on the high holy days and different Jewish holidays, the streets would be filled with people walking and sitting on benches, and it was a very amazing place to grow up. But my parents, I must say, were trying to be American, and my grandparents were more the traditional Jewish people. And so then I was brought up from 6 to 16 maybe in New Jersey, which was a totally different sort of America to be brought up in. There was a lot of music in the house, and some of it was like Latin dance music. My parents did tangos and cha-cha-chas and things like that. And so that was an influence on me, but there was also a lot of classical music being played. And also Leonard Bernstein was like the good Jewish boy in New York, and I just thought West Side Story as a 12-year-old. I mean, I used to just throw myself around the room dancing to it because it was just the most amazing music. So I was kind of experiencing a different sort of music. But when the Beatles came along, I got really excited about pop music because I was just 12 or 13, and I learned the bass guitar and got into a rock band at that point, thinking that it might make me popular, but it didn't really work that way. But anyway, I started playing the electric bass. And then I started to listen, and then all of a sudden, like the Beatles, because if you think about them, they went into more classical music with arrangements and string quartets and things like that. I started listening to classical music, and I just left rock behind. I don't think I ever listened to another rock group after them, because I just started listening to classical music. And when I say classical music, I'm talking about, you know, Handel and Mozart. I mean, I didn't know that much about it, because, yeah, I didn't know that much. So I started, but then I got the idea that I wanted to be a composer, and I was able to do that at the high school that I was going to. They had a harmony class that taught you about chords and melody and analysis. I don't know what they taught me, but it got me inspired. I think when you're 22, you probably, you don't really think too much about things. I got it in my mind I wanted to go to Australia because one of the students, one of the girls at my school went there, and she came back and it seemed really cool. And I thought I'd go to Australia. And I went downtown to the Fifth Avenue where the consulate, the Australian consulate was, and I went into the Australian consulate, and I had long hair, and I was 22, and I said, I want to go to Australia, I want to immigrate to Australia, and they were so uninterested in me, and they literally suggested, go down the hall and try New Zealand. That's true. And I was in the same floor, and I just walked down the hall and knocked on the door, and there was this woman from Christchurch, she sang in a choir, and there was easy chairs and pictures of snow-capped mountains, and then I kept going there and studying. I kept looking at books in the library, maybe Maury Freelander's books of those empty suburbs and telephone poles, and there was a national orchestra. I thought that was amazing, and you could see pictures of the national orchestra and stuff, and I got into my mind that I was going to go to New Zealand and immigrate. I know, but it's from someplace really big to someplace really small, because I think New Zealanders, they go from small to big, and I just went the other way. I didn't really come here to find a Jewish place, but I actually realized, because when I walked across the Grafton Bridge, that there was a Jewish cemetery. It's right there, and then I realized that there was a Jewish history, and Mayor Robbie was the mayor, but I had no idea he was Jewish at that point. But that was the town of Auckland I came into. It wasn't trying to find a Jewish place. I wouldn't have come here for that. And I was slowly discovering the Jewishness of here. I think some of the musicians that influenced me over the years have been violinists. And I think Sidney Manowitz in Dunedin, he was Sidney Mann at the time, he was really, I wrote classical pieces before that, but I wasn't getting a lot of performances, and here was somebody who was classical and could read and could take some risks and improvise, and the violin started making me sound, just the sound of the violin started making me write Jewish-sounding music. It was the instrument of the violin. It was crazy. I didn't listen to klezmer music or anything like that. I just started working with the violin, and he being a Jewish violinist, but it was just the violin, I think. And the second musician that really who played my music a lot and who supported me and was quite influential was Isidor Sasloff, the concertmaster of the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra in the 80s, where he was the concertmaster of the symphony orchestra, was a Jewish man, and he just really got what I was doing. So that was nice to have these people in positions, and who played my music as well. He'd commission works from me and things like that. So I was starting to get more commission work. And then I had these two streams. I had the classical composing stream where you write everything down, every dynamic, every performance, everything has to be written down. And then I had this this free improvisation spirit of just make it up on the spot. And so I had to figure out a way of doing both these things and combine them in some way. And I think I'm like water. I sometimes go where the easiest thing is, and I think I found it easier to improvise than to write, just to find classical people to play my music and stuff like that. And so for maybe 10 years, all I did was maybe improvise on the piano a lot. And then I wanted to become a serious classical composer, and I got this great opportunity to write a 90-minute ballet for the Royal New Zealand Ballet called On the Life of Jean Batten, and it was for full symphony orchestra, and it was 90 minutes. And I'd written one other orchestral piece and never even heard it. And then I was given this 90-minute commission, and it went up and down the country, and it was filmed on television, and it had a simulcast. In those days, Concert FM broadcast in stereo, but television was in mono. So people could turn on the radio and hear the music in stereo. That was terrific, because I'd only done that with rock groups before that. So that was nice, and that was a big deal. I've had a few big things happen in New Zealand, but nothing ever carries on, and it's never easy. You know, you get a piece played by your orchestra, and it's a big deal, and then you go back to just doing your own thing. So it's not an easy place to get by, but it's a good place to live. Living in New Zealand's an interesting place because I think if I'd stayed in New York, I might have become really highly specialized. And so if I decided I wanted to become a composer, that's probably all I would have ever done. And I probably, if I hadn't succeeded, I probably would have become a computer technician or something else, because it's so hard in those big cities. But I think being in New Zealand, I think it's the expression is a jack of all trades sort of place where you can do this thing. And I think that the idea of me working with, when I get my groups together, I always bring leading classical musicians in to mix with improvising musicians, and I think that's so much more easy to do in New Zealand, where things are smaller and the commuting is not so much, and people are more open, and you can meet people from different backgrounds. I think that sometimes I'm trying to express great beauty with melody and because I still use a lot of harmony and with my melody, I have the ability to have tension and relaxation, because there's notes that they're kind of dissonant with, and then you could oh, that's I can't play the piano from this anyway. I like resolving things and resolving tension, and I like building tension in music, and so I'm expressing emotion when I do that. But I also have this ability to just be crazy at the piano, and then I'm expressing energy. And I guess what I'm trying to express overall is a sense of a thought pattern, or that there's a shape. So even when I'm improvising freely, I'll get soft and loud, and I'll try to make a composition out of it. And so that I try to, I guess, express myself in a lot of ways, but I'm always trying to show a thought process and something beautiful or energetic, yeah.